Hi, I'm Justin Moorman.
And I'm Katie Thornton, and this is the Re-Education of Schools podcast,
where we have open, honest conversations about how to better understand social-emotional learning, trauma-informed care, the whys behind student behavior, and how to help kids navigate it all as they go through school and life. All right, welcome back. Episode 20, Dream On, Conversations with Katie, Justin, and Josh. Katie's losing it already, so this is going to be, this is going to be solid. Hey, we're excited to have Josh on camera.
Yeah.
He's always here. I was going to say here, but he's always here.
I'm well prepared. I know Justin and I both have new haircuts, so good about that. Katie?
It's going to get worked on.
There's a self-care episode if you want to go back and look at that.
We're going to do
Jump
that.
onto that one maybe and check it out. Hey, well, we're 20 episodes in, so we thought we would do something a little bit different and kind of...
I was thinking 3 at the most.
We made it to 20.
Yeah.
20
we're playing with house money.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
It's only up from here, right?
Right.
We could be done now, and we would have accomplished all of our goals.
Yeah.
This is a really different view than
when you're sitting
behind the
back there.
camera.
Is it a better view?
Yeah, but I keep
Do we
thinking
look
about
better this way?
You do. No, I know. On camera, you guys are both great.
Do I look worse
amazing.
this way?
No. Well, no. I mean, it's
Yes.
I need to know
1080i
how you
is a
feel
little different than. But I will say it is going to be weird when we go to edit this, and by we I mean me looking at myself on there. It's a lot easier, I'm sure, looking at you two than hearing your own voice.
It's a lot easier just talking and then walking away and then not having to edit it.
Hey, that's true.
Now you have to do both.
Right.
Doing both.
And then not watching it.
Yeah, exactly. Over and over and over again. I guess that's the advantage.
In this episode, we're just going to be talking about doing the podcast. We're kind of rogue and off script. There isn't a real big script for this one. We just because now you're on camera. That we should probably introduce the fact that you are a special education coordinator.
Yes,
you kind of help coordinate services. You've been an intervention specialist for a long time.
Yep. Yeah, 7 years, I think, total.
Yeah, you have gen ed experience and has been in education. Education was your second calling.
Yeah.
You had a previous career shifts.
I was a drafter, working primarily on like retail rollouts and restaurants, and then there was a big market crash in 2009, so got laid off and went back to school and had previously worked with kids in summer camps and after school programs and daycares, and was like, was always told, hey, you should get into education, and was like, well, I got the time now. So went and did it, and that's where I met Dr. Julie Biddle, who was on our previous episode. At Antioch, and just it's been great. Best thing that's ever happened. It's one of those times in your life where you're like, well, this stinks. How can I make my situation better? And here I am. Yeah.
So that's one of the things that we've always had in common is that neither of us set out in college initially to be in education. Right?
Yeah.
And then we both
I was hoping to make some more money. Really,
we chose poorly, right? And then both of us worked at separate facilities as well. And so it's always kind of been interesting as it was our start. What do you feel like one of the advantages was for you of not having always been on this path? Do you feel like there's advantages, disadvantages?
Yeah, absolutely. Like working in the private sector gave me a good perspective just about working with people, about deadlines. I think that I've always been very humble in my position and very appreciative.
Probably the most humble person you know.
Yeah, probably the most. Yeah, I would say number one humble person by far, with the best hair too. So.
That's right.
But yeah, I think just like giving a good perspective of there are a lot of perks of being in education. And I love wearing jeans on Friday.
Yeah.
I love getting to hang out with kids all day. And, having that perspective, I know what it's like to be in a cubicle and be in a grind. And of course there's camaraderie in any place you're working, but just having those goals in education and really affecting lives.
So that's really like the art part of like the editing. That's how we kind of, the three of us work together in a building. And kind of we were just joking around of how Justin and I doing the podcast. We're like, well, what are our podcast? Josh was like, wait, if you really do a podcast, I'll totally produce and edit it. We're like, great, because we have no idea how to do that.
We're not going to do a podcast.
So really, our podcast exists because Josh figured it out.
And funny thing was, I would say, I think it's, and I wasn't involved for the conversations that you all had, and there was a lot of things that you were doing to provide PD for current staff, and then also looking outside of the building. And you and I worked on that PBIS video to work on with transportation.
Yeah.
And I was like, I love doing this stuff. And we talked about the podcast and about how, I think this would be something that I could figure out and do. And so I would say without you guys and without Katie's drive, I mean, we wouldn't be sitting here 20 episodes in. So,
well, I certainly wouldn't be doing a podcast if Katie didn't make me.
Right.
So, no, the drive. We always say we have different skill sets,
we
right?
do have different skill sets.
That's good. It's good to have different skill sets in a team. Yeah,
absolutely.
It always makes a big difference.
Yeah.
Well, we are like 20 episodes in. We've heard from us before, from me and Katie before, about like why we're doing the podcast. Why, like, what appealed about it? I mean, I know you were like, oh, I'm capable of helping jump on board with this kind of project, but like, why? Like, what appeals to you about it? Like, why are you doing it?
Yeah, I think for me, finding different avenues to spread messages and to spread different approaches. I mean, you had talked about the separate facility, whereas kind of I learned working with students that had significant behaviors that there was a real, there wasn't a name behind it. I didn't have a lot of training, but just being nice to kids and being empathetic and understanding. And I just love finding different avenues to be able to share that message. And we talk about the conversation that we're having in the community and getting feedback. And I just think that podcasting's, I mean, I love podcasts. I listen to podcasts. I watch podcasts. It's a lot of people do. So I think it's what a great opportunity to spread that message and then also have an archive of ways to reach out to the current staff. I'll be able to look back 10 years later and go, hey, here's some things that we were doing in the year 2023.
I know,
yeah.
We'll probably be like those we were so wrong during that time.
It's like, now we're doing something completely different.
Yeah.
But.
Remember how good looking we were?
Yeah,
one time
young. Yep.
Well, we won't be doing videos by that point. We'll just be pure audio.
We'll be like it'll be like a teleported, 3D image.
Yeah. Okay. So positives and negatives. This is for the whole group.
Yeah.
Not just Josh. I'm not gonna just.
Okay.
But like, what are some of the positives and negatives that we've kind of experienced throughout the course of this? We're not a year yet or anything. We've still.
I think we're coming up on a year.
We'll be a year in February. So we've been out.
Guess.
Yeah.
But we were like working on it in December. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. It feels like
we've been out.
Yeah.
Since February, but we've been working on it for a while. I mean, I'll speak for me. I don't, and you share what you think, but
I'll also speak for myself. Like, I didn't know.
Well, because it's for both of us. I would say I think the best positive has been a lot of the public speaking engagements we've been able to do together. We enjoyed. I will say I enjoyed doing them with you. Yep. I think we enjoy writing the content and delivering PD and the opportunity to speak and do PD within our district. But more so, I think we're getting to be able to do some conferences, and I think that's been because of the podcast has been an avenue to do that. Yeah.
And it's a great self-promotion, to get that message out there, and it's a great avenue.
I get texts from I've lots of people I know are in education, like that's just like my network of my circle, right? And I get texts from people and be like, that was the therapy or the message I needed to hear today. Thank you. I wasn't ready to come back to school, but I listened to this your episode, whatever, and I feel like I'm in a good headspace now to come back. Or I needed somebody to tell me that. So I think we get some really good positive messages from educators, and I feel like that's been a great outcome of the podcast.
Yeah. Do you think people will say that about this one? Man, I wasn't ready to go, and then I listened to episode 20.
And
that was life-changing.
Yeah, I don't know.
That was the butterfly effect.
This is not the intent of this one. Yes, one. Yeah.
I got you. Yeah, I think for me, I mean, I can jump in. I think positive-wise, it's just I always like thinking a little bit deeper about what I'm doing and why. It's always kind of been a thing for me. And so this has provided the opportunity for me to do that in like an official way, right? As opposed to just me haphazardly deciding I want to think about it on whatever day. Hey, that we actually have episodes coming up that we're recording for. And so I'm going to think through why I do what I do. And it helps me. It's good reminders for me personally. I mean, I think it's easy to probably listen to the podcast and be like, they sound like they've got it together. Hopefully it kind of sounds like that. But I mean, the reality is I'm constantly evaluating, and up just like everybody else, we're all rethinking what we're doing or having to be reminded, no, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing. It's hard, this week, it's hard this month. This is a crazy whatever stretch of time, but this is why I'm doing it. And this is what is going to be effective about it. And this is what I have said I do and what people should do. And I haven't been doing it for the past week. And so I need to readjust. I think it's been super helpful for me in that regard. And again, I think the opportunities, right? And just getting to know more people I've been able to interact with that I wouldn't have been able to interact with before, would have had no reason to. I don't have a giant network of educators. We laugh all the time. I'm not connected that well with
I know everywhere. It's
connected,
painful to go anywhere with me sometimes because it's like, oh, hi, right, yeah.
It's different.
And then Justin enjoys doing that. Yeah. It's opposite. I'm like, I want to talk to you, but he goes back. Yeah.
Don't make me talk to people.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you? What have you felt like?
I think one of the positives for me is being a learner. So I'm the biggest fan. I've watched this podcast and listened to this podcast the most because I get to see it.
You're a real downer if you hate it. Yeah, I was like,
it is terrible.
Your voices are, oh my gosh, like nails on a chalkboard.
You're completely wrong. But so just being behind the camera, getting to watch it live and then edit and really dissect, And so, so I think for me, it's great learning. I am able to share the message and share those approaches and the philosophy with the staff that I work with. So it's just been a great opportunity. It's fun for me. I really enjoy it. I'm learning a lot about audio and about editing and about lights, which I'm still trying to figure out. I mean, we change them today. So, every I'm just learning a whole bunch. And so just being, back to that humility of I get to learn and I get to grow, and it's good listening and hearing all the knowledge you all have. So,
yeah. What about negative? Any negative? Have you guys had any negative experience from the podcast?
I think there's always a little fear of imposter syndrome, right? I'm going to be here talking like I'm have it all together,
some
and
guru,
yeah, and we don't. I mean, we make mistakes all the time, and we're
sure.
figuring it out. We're still halfway through your career. We're not we're veterans, but then we're still in that mid part. So not a lot of negative in terms of people saying they don't like the podcast or how dare you say that. Nothing like that has come back to me.
Sure.
But I think there's always a little bit of concern,
Yeah, it's more like the internal, right? Kind of like the internal pressure of, am I saying stuff right? If I say this, we don't necessarily, people say stuff to us about listening to it, but we don't necessarily know everybody who listens to it. I don't know how many people, I couldn't tell you how many people in our building, listen to
we don't
it.
Talk about
I have no
it.
idea. Yeah, we try to really keep it a separate thing. And so I do have to be aware, and I think it's a good form of accountability for me. So I guess this isn't a negative. I don't know. I'm having a hard time coming up with a negative, but I think it's a form of accountability for me of, am I doing what I say I'm doing?
Practicing
and am I doing the thing that I think is important and that I'm telling other people they should be doing? And am I showing them, hopefully that it's something that works? Because it's hard. I mean, we say that all the time on here, but really consistently staying stable and just consistent with all of this stuff that we talk about takes a lot of time and effort. It's hard. And so yeah, just being able to be aware that I don't know everybody who's listening. I'm not nearly as connected. I've had people come up within our building who are maybe a sub or something like that, who are like, "Oh, I listened to your latest episode." I'm like, I don't know who you are.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know who you are really. And that's maybe sounds awful of me, but I just don't know as many people. And so there are times that I'm like, or a parent has said something to me, and I'm like, oh, I don't know who that is even a parent of. It's not one of my personal kids, one of my own students. Yeah. I know who those people are, but it's but maybe a kid that and so I think there's always that idea that people are listening. I don't know who they are all the time, and I need to be not on all the time, but I need to be very aware and accountable to what I'm saying.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. I always feel too, I always worry. Someone says, well, I'm so glad you know a lot about that. If you could only figure out that part, you'd be really good at what you do. Because I think we can't talk about behavior and stuff for a long time. But is it this other facet of my job and maybe I'm not so great at? Is someone well, if you would put more energy into, that's probably the type 3 in me. What about you, Josh?
Well, I think just looking from a production standpoint, right, it takes time. And then sometimes even through 20 episodes and, about 30 to 40 minutes, depending on how overtime you all are, then it will, it can be a good couple hours per episode that I'm working on it. So I think time, and then you also get into a rut of kind of doing the same thing. But I haven't gotten bored with it, and I always try to find new techniques and do new things, whether it's adding graphics or even like our first interview with Dr. Biddle, like that was a whole brand new thing to me, a good challenge. So that was fun and kept it interesting, and I was excited to get into that. It'll be kind of weird but exciting to, have 3 people now on camera in studio, and it's something that, hey, maybe we'll have local folks come in or set this up someplace which
is our goal, right?
Which is our goal, to get more guests in. And so this will just provide a new challenge. And I'm sure if you looked back at all of the different episodes on YouTube, the audio podcast hasn't changed much, maybe the intro here or there. But, I do try to do new things just to kind of not make sure I don't get in a rut, and I'm still enjoying it. And, I still do. So,
do you like watching it? Do you have a problem watching yourself recorded?
Yeah.
Do you?
Oh yeah. I'm sure. I mean, like listening to myself too. Yeah, I never. But I don't like photos either. So
Josh also mentioned to me that he knows our mannerisms, and he's not going to call them out, so we stop doing so that we won't.
I don't want them to be conscious of it.
But I think that's also kind of fun that he has our.
Yeah. If I could do like SNL. Caricatures.
Well, maybe that's to impersonate each other.
Mm-hmm. Do a sketch of.
I'm sure none of us would be offended.
No. We're all pretty easy.
We all did that.
No.
You would for sure be offended so fast. You'd be so offended.
Yeah, at first she'd be like, "Yeah, that's funny."
Yeah, that's funny.
And then later on,
you got to catch me on the right, like.
Right behind.
My evaluation this year is terrible at work. I'm like, wait a second, is this because of the
roast?
He's real popular.
Yeah. First of all. I mean, I think Justin and I both we do not take ourselves very seriously.
Yeah.
And I think there's a good balance for being able to laugh at yourself, and I think you do too. So, yeah.
Goals. Let's talk about goals a little bit. Let's talk about our deepest fears. I'm going off questions you sent me. I was reading through them and I was like, "Holy cow! I thought this was a light episode."
Yeah.
But like, are there any goals that you guys have for either yourself or whether it's like connected to the podcast, or just even like as we're getting ready to start a year? It's summer for us right now, still like the tail end of summer. We're getting ready to start our year in about a week or so. At this point. So any goals for like the year, like you don't necessarily have a specific building or anything, Josh, that you're in. You're kind of in a lot of different places, but, or for podcast listeners this year that you'd hope that we'd have.
I would say personal goal is that I'm going to try to practice what I preach and do, be intentional about self-care. So I
think you've been doing a good job this summer of that.
I'm trying, and I feel like you're good about calling me out on it too. So that helps. And I have accountability. I have another person we work with that I've been kind of doing like a new workout thing with, and just being really intentional about like, it's time to go to class. Let's go. Just being more intentional to pause, because I feel like I say it, but they're working still. You know what I mean?
It's hard to
do. To walk away. So, and I let people be forgiving. I would say goals. For building wise would be tier 1 instructional practices now that we have all the trauma-informed stuff. So I think that's a building goal. I would say podcast goal is that I'm open to where this goes. I want to be open to opportunities that come available to us, to seek those out or to receive them as they come, and being really open to where this could possibly, I don't know where this is going to go, but I'm open to it. And that's my goal for this, is to being open to the opportunities. I enjoy, so.
Yeah.
What about you?
So for my goals, I think it's, this will be my starting my third year in this position, becoming more efficient. A lot of times coordinators, we are meeting with parents. We're scheduled meetings throughout the day, throughout the week, throughout the year. And having more time in the classroom and working to support staff, ultimately supporting our students, is really where I want to become more efficient and have some pet projects too. I think those, just learning the job and learning my role and not having those initiatives that I want to create with my teams. And so I think, having a couple of those to make sure that I am, keeping things fresh and not just getting stuck in the mundane day to day as far as meetings and compliance, how that goes.
Yeah.
So I think just being intentional with that for sure.
Yeah.
You kind of got thrust in too, really.
Yep.
Like, I mean, again, a couple years ago now, but like you really was like I don't want to say last minute, but like it was kind of last minute in school world, calendar world, to the job you're in now as a coordinator. I mean, that was not necessarily something you had months and months to prepare for. So
no, and it was. Last minute, I would say there was a big shift from the previous coordinator.
The previous coordinator was amazing and had everything set up for you, though.
And she did. Yeah, she definitely made that transition much easier for me. So I got to follow some big shoes. And
it's been kind of fun because we started essentially all three of us at the same time.
Yep. In our current roles.
In our current roles. So that's been really cool, like team-wise, to be like really consistent and on the same page for each other. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
What about you? What's your goals this year?
I don't know. I mean, I was thinking about building wise. I think it's just been cool to watch the building continue to grow and adjust. I mean, this will be my third year, and I think that it's been really cool to watch the building, and to become more a part of the building. I think that's been the thing. Like I was jumping in. We had a whole COVID thing. Like I didn't know. Like my first day, I was out for like a week.
I remote zoomed you in at our opening day.
Yeah, to watch. And then I couldn't understand anything because it was like terrible audio. No. And so
I didn't have Josh.
Got my help. Yeah.
We really should have. And so it was like, I think I texted you. I was like, it's like watching the Charlie Brown like thing. Adults. Like, yeah, that's pretty much what I heard.
Yeah.
And so the first day with students was the first day I met the Paris and everything. It was crazy.
A wild start, yeah.
So it's been good to be able to get to like know the building as a whole and just watch how a great group of people, right? Amazing group of people, great staff, and to watch with having some different style of units in our building. Yeah. How well the staff is, how welcoming the staff is to having some intense units of students, and also just how their ability to adjust and make changes that need to be made. Like they've been really great to work with. So I'm excited to just continue to do that and kind of build depth there myself. I think district wise, I keep thinking I'm relatively new still. I mean, I have not been around very long. And I just think anywhere I go, I always like the idea of being able to explain and hopefully show the differences of what we're really talking about with like trauma-informed care and maybe different approaches, and how it's just so frequently it's not what people think it is, and it's not nearly as like passive. I think people feel like it's so passive, and I've just enjoyed being able to get those opportunities more and more through even district-wide professional development stuff that we've led. Explaining that it's not just like we say like the Wild West, anything goes, however you phrase it. I think it's good. I think what I would love this coming up for like listeners, right, and podcast wise, is like continue like to grow like how do you say it? Like involvement, I guess, like relationship community. I think that there are probably a lot of people, I know there are a lot of people out there that don't have a lot of support in doing a lot of the work that we talk about. And if we could even be partly that support, I know it's different. It would have to be different than what, like the three of us sitting around a table. But to be able to be that for people and to be able to have that interaction back and forth, I think is pretty huge. Personally, I don't know. I don't have that many personal goals. It sounds crazy. I've said this before in maybe our intro episode or maybe even episode 1. And I've said this since I've graduated college years ago when I was trying to figure out what to do. I just like helping people, and I want to spend my time helping people. And that's, if schools went away, I would still find another job that was helping people.
Yeah.
And that's what I want to do, and that's what I love doing. And so just to continue to find ways to do that, right? Like consistently doing that, I think is important to me.
Yeah.
I would say like a collective goal we talk about a lot. We do have business meetings every once in a while.
We do. They're very official.
They're very official.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who puts together the agenda for those? Definitely
that's weird.
Not me.
Yeah, that's
not
weird.
Josh or Justin, that's for sure.
But I think collectively we know some really incredible people, and to give them the platform and the voice to share what they do for how their job benefits us.
Right.
Like
everyone's coming from a different perspective.
There is a village that has been built around this like network here, and like really to give other people platform to share and be guests on the podcast. I think I don't think our intent is to have a guest every time. This podcasts are set up that way where it's a new guest every episode. I don't think that's our intent, but I think to be really intentional, we're going to talk about this topic, and actually we think this person's a better person to come in and help facilitate that conversation with us.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to be really intentional about that. Hopefully the next round of filming to have some more people on.
Yeah. I think that's good.
And I think that's a goal. Yeah, having more guests, and then also I would love to do like a live stream event would be great too. So just fill or increase our portfolio of ways that we can. Nope.
No,
all right.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Justin's not a big fan of socializing. So.
I'm just kidding. No, I think it's a good idea. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it wasn't long ago. I forget where you were going. You were going on a trip or something. You're like, if something happens to me, if I don't make it back,
you just keep it going.
Like keep the podcast going. I was like, let's be real clear.
Here's the co-host for you.
Let's be real clear. If you die horrifically somehow, like God forbid, right? Like I'm just not doing the podcast anymore.
Yeah,
like why would I? Like
over.
we'll clearly just be done. Like,
Yep.
So Katie kind of drives that as far as like it continuing to go.
It's a lot of work to keep you two together. So it's a lot.
I also make sure that I don't share any of my production secrets with you.
Yeah.
That way I have
you're,
to be...
invaluable.
Yeah. We already said if something Josh decides to quit, we're definitely not having video. It's just going to be audio.
Yeah,
and
what's the bare minimum
and there's
we'd
no
have to learn?
editing. It's just start to finish rogue.
Yep.
What would I have to learn to make this keep going? And is it worth it? I don't know.
I don't know.
Maybe it's
I
not
don't know.
If I have to
or
learn
is it
too
as
much.
fun? I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm having fun.
Yeah, that's
All right.
right.
What's it like to be on this side?
It's a lot more pressure.
Yeah.
I do feel like I've got enough skills where I'm like, well, we'll record it and figure it out if something's wrong, But
if you don't like what you said, you'll just come back and be like, the audio didn't record. We have no idea. And you'll be like, we'll have to redo it again.
Yeah, or you won't even remember that I didn't say it or messed up or whatever the case may be. Yeah, I definitely thought about that too. I'm going to have the control on what the final product looks like. So
you're going to sound amazing.
I am, and I'll make you
Why?
not sound as
like
good.
Why is there so many touch-ups on Josh? And why have we been looking so old and you look?
Is there like a filter and you look like an old man?
Who did?
It's just you.
Well, that's interesting. So that's just scary is what it is. All right. Hey, one of the questions you have on here, Katie, that you sent us, and I'll be curious to see, we're asking it now. So I don't know what mindset you were in, frame of mind you were in. I actually was worried about you. How are we going to know when it's time to be done with the podcast?
Well, I think we've said that before, right? Like,
I don't know. Ever said that?
No.
I think I just said like if you were to all of a sudden not exist,
that's when we're doing
That's when you knew you were.
I would know, but I don't know.
Well, I sometimes have people ask like, how many episodes are you gonna do? Like, what's your plan, right? And I'm like, well, we don't really have one.
There's no plan.
There isn't really.
I mean, I think you had 8-ish, as not to say that you had a number, but you had definitely we can produce this amount of content with this information.
Yeah.
And I think
we can
we're
take
past
we can take
right?
ourselves this far.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're in uncharted waters now for sure.
Yeah.
We're like, so what does this look like now?
Yeah. Yeah. But some people will say, well, how long are you going to be doing this? We always say when we're 50.
Do they say it like that, by the way?
No,
so how long are you going to be doing this?
Like,
forever?
Yeah, also, who are these people?
How many episodes are you going to do? So when we're 50, episode 1000.
Yeah.
So your children?
Yeah.
Like, how long
The kids are now
What's the
graduating
deal with
from high
AI
school.
teachers? We're not even hiring humans anymore.
Yeah. I don't know. Will there be a point? I just think we're open to opportunities that come through with the podcast. I think we would evaluate like frequency. Maybe we do more. Like this will end up being a different setup for us where we're doing a lot more of them because of work stuff. Or maybe there's a time where we push back and say,
whoa.
Yeah.
We're doing a lot more?
Yeah. If we were in different roles doing stuff, right? Okay,
Sure.
So we don't know what the future is going to hold for us with
That's true.
opportunities coming
Never
through.
know.
And I would say it's been a lot of fun for me to do the podcast. And people probably we authentically have genuine friendships that this is not just a professional exchange for us, that there doesn't go a couple days in between and I always talk to you guys.
Yep.
There's like 2 or 3 days we talk all the time.
Yep.
Not about the podcast, not about work.
Yeah.
About life.
Just in general.
Yeah.
There's a genuine friendship there. So for some reason the podcast would interfere with that. Like that's the most valuable thing to me is our friendships because I depend on you guys big time in life.
Yeah.
So I think that's important, and I think
self-care, right? Part of that. Yeah, community of support. So.
Yeah, I think when it's not fun anymore, when it seems like so much work and we're drowning in it, then I guess maybe it's a time to pause. I don't know. I don't know when the time would be where we're like we're just not doing the podcast anymore. But
if
it's been fun.
just me watching or listening to it, then maybe that's
you're the only one.
Yeah.
Our viewership goes like this.
Justin's mom and
my mom,
Katie's mom. Yeah.
We're down to just parents.
Just parents.
Yeah. What about you? When do you think it would be like a time like you thought about?
I think time. I mean, I think when having 2 girls, I got 2 girls that are under the age of
little kids.
Kids.
Yeah.
And I think that there's a lot of times where we're really busy, and I do have to kind of shoehorn when I'm gonna edit and make time for it. It's usually when they're asleep.
Yeah.
And so then, I don't see it getting busier life-wise where I can't keep doing it.
You're in the thick of it.
Yeah, I feel like I'm in the thick of it.
But
But then I talk to my friends that have older kids, and they're running them around to every sporting event.
It's a different thick, though. You
Yeah.
have little people that are dependent on you to survive.
Right.
It's a little different,
That's right. I like the way you frame that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think, I just don't see, I think it'll evolve, right? Maybe before we consider hanging it up, like, okay, well, maybe instead of pulling the plug, let's think about maybe there's something else.
Different platforms or avenues.
Yeah, maybe we can try to, think of something new.
Yeah. I think for me, it's just always the idea of helpfulness again. Mm-hmm. Like, is this something that's valuable to people? Is it something that's growing, hopefully, people? Is it something that's growing us and improving us? Am I better because of it? Are other people better because of it? Is that a thing or not? And I think that's kind of what drives me in general for a lot of things that I do and how I make a lot of decisions in life. Hopefully, I think that's always kind of what it comes back down to, and how much time is stuff going to take me. It's always those two things: how much time is going to take me, and what a value is in there. Yeah. And so I think
there's a line chart somewhere.
There is. I made it. It's actually it's in a Word.
That's how I make all my decisions. It's on a Word document.
Yeah. Katie, that way Katie can't find it because it's on a Word document. She doesn't even know how to work you
can only access online through your keyboard.
Yeah.
You have to have a real keyboard. It can't be on a laptop. Apparently I'm a really old person that appreciates
younger man's body.
Yeah. Actually, this is going to be totally off topic, and nobody's going to care about this in the podcast. You'll cut it out in post if nobody cares. But my Bluetooth keyboard and mouse stopped working, and I was like, I'm not even going to type.
Did you panic?
Well, I'm going to go buy one. But I was like, I'm not going to use... I'm just not going to use my laptop.
Just so everyone knows, like, you use a laptop.
I do.
With a keyboard.
Then with a keyboard and a mouse on top of that.
So you use the laptop primarily as a monitor.
Yeah, and 100%.
Yeah. Now, do you
I just chuckle. He comes into meetings and he's got like...
Oh, so it's even when you're not at your desk?
I don't take the keyboard because I get made fun of too much by somebody. I won't say who it is, but it's somebody that I
think
work
that
with.
Could be in this room.
And so, but I do take the mouse. Actually, for a long time, I thought the mouse pad didn't work. Do you remember that in meetings? And I didn't think that mouse pad worked, and turned out I pressed a button at some point and turned it off.
I don't really trust people that don't use a Bluetooth mouse.
Yeah.
People that use trackpads, because I don't know, it doesn't seem very efficient.
We had a
like
big
you're doing 2 hands like this, and
I'm ready to go no matter what.
It makes me anxious watching people use just a trackpad.
Yeah. Wow. Do you have a line chart for that? Like,
I do. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
How often are they using
what technology do they use and they don't use?
And then do I trust them or not? Mm-hmm. That's good to know. Yeah. I'd like to believe I fall somewhere in the safe zone of that, although it's so old.
Everyone's safe. Yeah.
All right. Well, it's kind of a weird one to like say, what do you want people to walk away knowing? Maybe something you want people to walk away from this episode knowing either about the podcast or about like our direction. I don't know. I mean, it's kind of open-ended, but what do you want people to walk away from listening to this one knowing?
I guess I'd walk away saying that there's a lot of care and compassion and heartfelt, genuine that comes from this podcast. Like there's a real sincerity to help and support educators out there, that we're human, we're not perfect, that we're just telling our story from our experience. certainly, and that I think our goals for this is just to continue. And I think people say this, like people that have come to PDs that we've hosted and said, you can tell the presenters are extremely passionate, so I think, I hope that's felt through the podcast as people that come to do in-person things with us. And I hope people realize that, we're going to help as much as we can with our current roles, but, I wish we had a full-time job where we were out doing a lot of the follow-up conversations, right? I mean, that's such a missed thing. So how do we create, I think we're trying to figure out, and post-COVID, how to create platforms for people to have conversations and take care of educators. And we're such in a unique time of education. So I hope we're helping support people through this.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
How about you, Josh?
I think
your first, what do you want people to
what do
walk
I want
away
people to walk away with? And I didn't have any time to prepare because I
No,
didn't
this
get
is
the
good.
email of it. So
And actually, I was in the meeting with. Anyways, I was in a meeting with you, and I should have just texted you and said I sent that stuff. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we were in the same meeting.
We were in the same meeting.
So I would say for me, I think when we look at, and if people haven't figured this out, Justin and Katie are very different people, and they have different styles about the way they, educate, the way that they, and it's a real Laurel and Hardy type situation where they play to each other's strengths, but they're different. And I think that as you listen to this podcast, you can take away that, hey, I'm kind of more like Justin in this realm, or I'm more like Katie in this realm, but it still all can work. It doesn't matter what your style is, that this isn't just for certain people. This is for everyone. This is what's best for kids. And at the end of the day, that's why we're doing this, right? So I think just knowing that it doesn't matter what background you come from or what previous philosophies were, or teaching styles, or, wearing business suits to, parent meetings, or wearing, a hoodie and jeans. It all, we all can access this and provide the support that our kids need.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
I hope people walk away really feeling the genuineness of us. I think this is kind of who we are. I know that we usually have, I guess, an agenda. I don't know how else you describe it during each podcast. Obviously, we're not just coming in and winging it every time.
Speak for yourself.
unless you're behind the scenes.
Yep.
But I think that this is kind of genuinely who we are, and hopefully that comes across. And hopefully, it's something we talk about a lot. Hopefully, people walk away from this episode knowing that that's really what you should expect from yourself, is being genuine and being who you are, knowing that that's plenty. That's enough, right? And that you don't have to be something extra or more. And I think that's important. And I hope that we get that across, whether it comes, and I think that trickles down to teaching and everything else, right? Just in life in general, be who you are and accept who you are, and be the best version of that you can be, and don't try to be something extra. I hope that always comes across. Yeah. I also hope, even, I guess, coming back specifically to this episode, like, it's important to evaluate yourselves every now and again, even if it's in a fun, lighthearted way. Just sit around and think with people that you're close to, that know you well, right? What are we doing? Why are we doing it? What am I doing? Why am I doing it? How am I doing? What do I want things to look like in the future? That's important to do, and I think especially in education, it's hard to do in life for people. But I think especially in education, it's hard to do because we're always like the next thing. And I think it's important to be able to reflect a little bit, and it's also important to look ahead.
Yeah, and I would say that's part of probably a little bit of the magic of why this works for us, is because there's enough genuine love and care for each other that you guys I'll just speak personally, you guys call me out when I need it, like, I think you need to settle down, or like, but it's such a good way. Like, you guys are both so good for me, but like, I think that's good to put people, surround yourself with people that have unconditional love and care for your success,
right?
That they will tell you the hard stuff when you maybe don't want to hear it, but need to.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of what it works.
Well, hopefully you guys have enjoyed this episode. We're going to wrap this up. Josh
I
is
do
already
think
just
it's
looking.
hilarious that the one that I'm on, it's 40 minutes we're going on as far as the audio.
So how nervous are you about that?
Well, I get it now.
Yeah,
I just
it
want to
goes
keep
quick,
talking.
right? And it's hard to it's
Mm-hmm.
hard to find the time to cut it off.
Yeah.
And I'd like to show the one that we did that was just on the laptop without Josh involved and with terrible mic. And we're like, we just need to do a run through. I remember Katie and we're like, we need to sit down
and see if we can talk
and actually
on camera.
just talk back and forth and see if we can actually do it. Maybe we're terrible at it. We don't know. And the quality of it all, I don't even know what I said. We have it saved like in all of our drive stuff.
Yeah.
But it'd be fun to go back and look at that one now.
I'm going to insert it right here.
Yeah. Oh boy.
I've always wanted to do that.
Put something right here.
Yeah, click
like
here.
and subscribe
click
here. Watch.
I don't have
right
that.
there.
Yeah.
I don't know
Watch
how
us
to do
embarrass ourselves. Yeah, it's good.
Well, as always, we just appreciate you guys coming and joining in the conversation with us, hearing us chat with each other. Hopefully there's something that you got. Hopefully you got something out of this. I don't know.
At least entertainment.
Yeah,
right? That's
nothing
the
else
bare
entertainment.
minimum.
It's a lighter episode.
Yeah.
Hey, for real, we always do want to be interactive. Like, if you guys have questions or you guys have like a topic you'd like us to talk about, man, we'd love to hear that. Really reach out to us. We always have our email addresses. You can do that on Facebook, I'm sure.
Yep.
All kinds of ways, or at least 2 ways that I've mentioned.
Yep.
2 ways.
All of the ways.
And but we would love to be able to hear from you and hear directions, or if there's somebody that you're like, who you should have on the podcast, as we've learned that we have this capability, that we can actually do it. Let us know. You're like, hey, we would love to hear you talk to this person, or if you are a person that has come across it. And you're like, I'd love to be on the podcast.
The Rock, if you're listening, we would love to have
the following
you on
people.
there.
If we could have
No, I was just trying to think of like the most. I mean, I'd love to have
people.
The Rock on, but one of the most famous.
Taylor
people.
Swift. Who are like the biggest name people in the
She's
world
not really
right
doing
now?
anything
Oprah,
right now.
would you like to come talk about your
Oprah
book?
would be good.
Yeah, hit us up.
Yeah.
We'll tag all those people. I'm sure they'll listen and get back to us. But we do. We just want to be able to hear from you guys and appreciate all of that when we do get to do that. So as we kind of sign off again, just appreciate you joining in the conversation. Hopefully you keep listening. Hopefully you keep sharing it with people that you find or think would find value in it. And let's go out there and do the work.
Let's go do it.
Hey, here's to another 20 more.
Yeah.
Hey everybody, let's keep the conversation going.
Like and subscribe below and keep the comments rolling.